It's your guy Bendu, and I'm coming at you with another episode of Tox Talk. And I'm here with some very special people, so I'm gonna go ahead and let them go around the table and just go ahead and introduce themselves. What's good, guys?
Shareef Snuggs, Washington D.C. organizer for the March for Medicare for All.
I'm Scott Desnoyers from Stillwater, New York, Medicare for All, New York healthcare activist, whole Washington, basically single payer universal healthcare, anywhere, everywhere.
Chris Licameli. I am the Columbus organizer for the March for Medicare for All.
Right. Sounds good, guys. So, we're getting very close to the big day, man. I'm getting excited. I'm going to be attending the march in DC. So, if you guys, whoever would like to go, if I, just update the audience on what's going on with the march, like I said, there's so many cities, like Shareef, the last time you came on, there's so many more cities, man. You even reached out to me, was like, hey, how would you feel about a march in Delaware? I was like, I'm going to DC. He said, would you like to go to one in Delaware? but yeah, man. So if you guys could just offer an update on everything, what's going on with the different marches, and I guess inform everybody.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll let Chris, because he's a newbie. I'd like Chris to start first.
Okay.
Yeah, sure thing. So I picked up the Columbus March after hearing Misty Winston come to the national call for Moving for People's Party, and saw there was nothing for Columbus. And I think at that point it was only like 15, 16 cities, less than 20 cities. So I signed up right away, and then now we're at 34 cities. And thanks to a ton of help from Shareef, we've got Misty Winston as our MC, our Master of Ceremonies. And then I hadn't really done much of like marketing, promoting of the event. And just from it being on the website, I just had people starting to sign up and register. And I had a few candidates that are running for office in Ohio that reached out. The first was Matthew Mead. He's running against Joyce Beatty. And Joyce Beatty used to support Medicare for All back in 2018, and she no longer does. So Matthew is running, and that's one of his biggest platforms is Medicare for All and human rights as well. And then Sam Ronan is running for senator of Ohio as an independent, and he's ran a few times in both parties. So he's also a Medicare for All supporter. And then we're hoping, if you're listening to this right now, go tweet at Nina Turner, ask her to be the keynote speaker of Columbus. I've tweeted her a few times today. We're reaching out her with some positive vibes to have her come out for the Columbus March and speak as our keynote speaker. That's what we're pushing for big time right now. So.
Man, that sounds exciting, especially, with I feel like those different types of candidates with different, backgrounds and everything like that will definitely help, encompass more people into the march and into the movement and everything. I guess the question I would have for you, Chris, is like, just to ask, and I'm gonna ask Scott this as well. Like, what got you into this fight for Medicare for All and single payer? Like, what drew you into this fight?
Yeah. Do you mind if I go back a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
It started out, my political activism started like many other people about 15 months ago. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, with the death of George Floyd, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I became very active. I was, like many people, stuck at home and no job. I had a job, but we only worked remotely for 10 hours a week, and went to Black Lives Matter marches and got very involved in the Black Lives Matter movement. And then it snowballed into, I listened to Andrew Yang's podcast for a bit. Then he brought on Ryan Knight. And once I listened to Ryan Knight, I never listened to Andrew Yang again. My views align way more with Ryan Knight, and ever since then, I haven't missed an episode of Ryan Knight's show, and he brought on in February Laura Fielding, and since then I was like big proponent of like she like completely sold me on it. Like I was always supportive of like very progressive movements, and I consider myself a global leftist, not an American leftist. And then it's just everything snowballed us. How do I get more involved? And back in April, I started my own coalition inspired by Fred Hampton, who is my biggest inspiration out there. So I started the Unified People's Coalition, inspired by the Rainbow Coalition that he started back in the 60s. And I mean, it was extremely, I mean, it goes to what we've experienced in the last, 48 hours, where Fred Hampton was able to bring together white supremacists, Puerto Rican gang members, and Black Panther Party members together to fight in a working class coalition. And if that, I mean, in 1968, 1969, he was able to do that. And it goes to speak with, we'll talk about it later on in the show, but what we've experienced in a little bump in the road here for our coalition ourselves. But I started that and just supporting the marginalized, underprivileged communities, and Medicare for All, I mean, is a working class. It extends beyond working class Americans. So if you're not a billionaire, Medicare for All will, like healthcare really affects you financially. I mean, I had solid healthcare when I worked in a university system. I worked in higher ed for 3 years. And like when you work in higher ed and you work for the state, you get great healthcare. Like I've got a health savings account. I was able to swipe for cough drops. Like I didn't pay a dime for anything. And like, it was the closest I ever had for Medicare for All. And now I work for a private sector multi-sport athletics facility. And like, I'm told I have like solid healthcare, right? But my deductible is $5,000. Literally anything that happens to me up to $5,000, I'm on the hook for, which is absurd. Which I'm a healthy person right now, but I can't imagine, somebody who needs insulin and is paying, $2,500 to just stay alive every 2-3 months is like, that's insane. And I guess to shorten up, to round up your answer, Laura Fielding was my biggest. Laura Fielding, Ryan Knight are the two biggest, why I'm here on the show today and why I'm running that Columbus march. And then Fred Hampton as well. Those are the three names I would, solely responsible for this.
Yeah, man. Fred Hampton is definitely like I've been learning more about him and just more about the Black Panther Party in general and everything like that. And like just hearing his story and like the coalitions right now, kind of like, and as you alluded to, kind of is very saddening to see like, these exclusionary politics kind of like, oh, if you don't, believe in 100% of my message, then, fuck off and things like it's kind of it's insane to see, because it's like, you're never going to get this cookie cutter, mold that everybody's going to fit into. So.
Exactly. And when I started Unified People's Coalition, like I was like wrestling with names of like, because the original idea was, to bring together, like progressive movements and leftist movements. I mean, there's so many like parties or, subsectors of parties like DSA, and Social Alternative, People's Party, Green Party, and they all just have like we want the same end goal, and just too many people have too many different ways of getting there, and it just divides us. And like, there's power in the people. That's why Fred would always. There's all the powers in the people. We can all just come together. I mean, there's no stopping it.
Yeah, and I say this all the time. Like I feel like not necessarily within like politics, like a politician, but some type of leader, but like a leader with like the personality of Trump, but obviously not like the politics and beliefs of Trump. Somebody that would just come in and be like, yeah, fuck what you're saying. We're going to do this. This is what we're focusing on. Like a take charge type of person. Cause I feel like that's the problem with the lefts. Like I feel, and I don't know how you guys feel about Bernie Sanders personally, but I feel like Bernie Sanders is the perfect, like, exemplifying, like he's the perfect symbol of what's wrong with the left. You know, the left, that a left that's not very strong, a left that is, you know, that's not, you know, strong on their like position, well, not necessarily their positions, but how hard they're going to fight for those positions.
Yeah, like they don't have that conviction.
Yeah, it's like, you know, speaking of Mike Gravel, when Shareef first came
I was just about to bring him up.
Yeah,
he's like the closest you could get.
Mm-hmm.
Like people talk about how like, oh, we let Bernie get away in 16 and 20. Talk about Mike Gravel getting away in 08. Like I go back and I watch those debates and it's like, why was nobody listening? He was talking about it when people thought he was just a crazy guy.
He turned to Hillary and Obama and said, on foreign policy, you guys scare me.
Yeah.
It was like, when I saw it, I was like, wait, what?
And they just laughed at him. Like you see in those like 8 and 10 panel stage, like they just laugh at him like everyone does, because they know exactly what he's saying.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, like, and especially in a day and age where he was like, when he read the Pentagon papers into the Senate, like I think it's like the record or something like that. I forget what the exact term for it is, everything like that. That was back during the time, like not like a couple years previously, they were whacking politicians like left and right, like,
yeah,
especially anti-war politicians. So it's like the fact that he stood up and did that to bring that information to the people is one, extremely exemplifies his fortitude on his beliefs. And I even go back to people like Ralph Nader as well, wasn't afraid to stand up for his beliefs. I feel like we don't have those types of politicians, and the leaders that we do have outside of that, they try to tear them down. It's this one guy on Twitter, I follow his tweets all the time. I think his handle's like Unholy Rome or something like that. Dude, they were going after that guy. That was one of how I got into the rabbit hole of going through the drama, like just tearing this guy apart. This guy is doing mutual aid work, traveling around talking to the poor. Like, why? What is wrong with y'all?
Yeah, the left kind of does it a lot. Excuse me. We kind of look at Rome has a past in which he apologized for, and people still feel that he should still apologize. I disagree. I totally disagree with that, because I feel like you're basically saying that everyone has a squeaky clean past and everyone's kind of like happy and no one does anything wrong. I mean, we have a president, in my opinion, who's a racist and a sex offender and a war criminal. And so we can vote for him and we're okay with that. We should be allowed, anything in my opinion should be on the table then. Dude, seriously.
He's literally, that's okay. The author of the crime bill and the Patriot Act is literally offering a 2.0 version of both of those policies, and nobody's saying fucking shit about it.
No one. And
not a word.
Literally, I have black people in my family, right, who justify Joe Biden being president.
Yeah.
Okay, valid. But also too, know what you're voting for. And also to have those same standards across the board. And my problem with the left, we do not. We pick and choose where one thing's okay and one not's okay. So you're acknowledging the fact that Joe Biden is a racist, right? Because he offered the crime bill. But then you also have to understand how, when you attack someone else on Twitter or wherever else, you also need to be okay with them also having a pass or whatever the case may be. And I just feel like there's a little double standard there. And I think we need to address that.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, it's kind of like I'm at the point now where it's like, it's just making me like, not even like I just did a video where I'm like, I don't even know if I'm voting anymore, electoral, like going on electoral politics. I feel like it's just failed us. That's why I'm kind of inspired by how you got involved with activism and everything, because I'm looking within myself and looking for ways that I can like get involved in things like that, whether it's mutual aid groups or anything like that. I was looking into the Working Families Party here in my state, because they do a lot of work. They actually just like did a lot of work to get the minimum wage passed here in Delaware. But yeah, like that's honestly what I'm going to be talking on my show more, a lot about more, is like people just getting involved with their communities. I've been watching Jordan Sheraton's work, how he's been going around in places like Philly and things like that. I'm literally like almost like an hour, not even an hour away from Philly. So it's kind of dope to see like, on the ground stuff, not necessarily always focusing on electoral politics. And that's what I think is so inspiring about this march as well. It's kind of like the anti-establishment vibe to, surrounding it. Like it's for, Nina Turner, you could come, the squad of which they're not going to, but you guys even extending fights to those people as well. But it's like, this is an anti-establishment movement, and like I feel like that's kind of what it needs to be. Like we need movements outside of politics. So I guess I'll move into Scott. Scott, go introduce yourself to the people as well too, man. And if you could just give your story and background into this fight for single payer healthcare and everything like that.
Yeah. Shareef was like really awesome. He honored me with the option to host a vigil at the DC March. We'll be reading off names of other lost loved ones to our healthcare system, or more accurate, welfare system. I became very active 2 years ago when I lost my son, Danny. What happened is he had come home to me one day and he's like, "Pops, I went to get my medicine refilled and found out my insurance was canceled." I'm like, "Okay, Danny, no, not a big deal." Like, how much is it? He tells me it was $250, Jesus. It was a big deal because we didn't have it. And so I was like, "Well, Dan, you got an appointment with your therapist in a couple of weeks. I'm sure she can help you out. In the meantime, we'll try to come up with the money, and you should get a hold of Fidelis and find out what happened." Now, Fidelis is owned by Centene, which was the major profiteer off of the ACA's managed Medicaid plan. In 2018, they saw their profit skyrocket, and they increased their revenue by 24% in that first year from adding that plan. I think they made like $60.1 billion in 2018 after adding managed Medicaid. Jeez. And if that ain't sick enough, last year during the pandemic, they've almost doubled that during the year of the pandemic to $111.8 billion. Now, a lot of that revenue was actually funded because they didn't have to provide elective care for the first year, which is still health care. But it definitely highlights how much insurance companies profit by denying, not supplying healthcare. And that's what's being sold to us through the ACA. It did nothing to change the cost of our healthcare. Anyway, I get away from what happened. Danny's medication that he was on was risperidone, which is an atypical antipsychotic that has a known suicidal risk upon withdrawals. So he calls up Fidelis and he finds out that he missed a $20 payment to his managed Medicaid program. Didn't even know he had it because, he was fighting with his girlfriend and there's like legal problems between them. So he couldn't communicate with her and shit. So 2 weeks later, I see his post on Facebook on April 9th. He says that he decided that he can't get above the pain and that this is selfish, that he super glued his seatbelt shut and decided death by drowning. And he said goodbye to his 2 children and drove his truck in the Mohawk River. Sorry. I saw his post like 32 seconds after he did this, and my wife and granddaughter were at the table and I screamed out, "I got to go save Danny," and told him what was going on. And I jumped in my car and raced down to the lake because I just saw a picture that he shared on Facebook of the cab of his truck overlooking the water, And I figured maybe if I could get down there, I could save him, And I couldn't, Even if I got there, the water was like 38 degrees. I have a heart condition, If I jumped in the water, it would have been 2 casualties, But I mean, I swore to Danny in front of at his funeral, in front of all of his loved ones, that I'm going to make our lawmakers look me in the eye and see the consequences of their decisions, because this shit ain't fucking right. Because my son didn't know he had a $20 payment. I forgot to mention, he made his $20 payment that day on the phone when he called them. They said it was April 9th, and they told him his plan would be reinstated on May 1st, the next billing cycle. Next fucking billing cycle. A known suicidal risk. They know what they're doing. Oh, by the way, Fidelis is also, the CEO sold it to Centene. Is Father Frawley of the Catholic Diocese, the Albany Catholic Diocese, that preaches the one unforgivable sin, That motherfucker is condemning patients every single day to purgatory according to his teachings because they're not paying him $20. That's why I'm going to be the one hosting the vigil, because I understand the pain, losing a loved one, I might also add, I was mentioning earlier about how I'm an activist for the New York Health Act. This year, during the budget for the New York Health, or for the New York budget, Governor Cuomo has gone on record saying he's rescinding that $20 essential plan premium, that it's inhumane. Governor Cuomo never reached out to me. Now, our vice president has heard Danny's story. Senator, what's her name? I've got my own senator's name. What's the female senator from New York? What's her name?
I'm drawing a blank on her. Let me.
Yeah, I forget her name.
I know it's Chuck Schumer.
Not Chuck Schumer. The
other one.
She actually helped with Bernie's bill too.
Is it Hastings?
No, not Heastie. No. It was state senator or federal senator.
Representative?
No. Anyway, my point is our vice president, Senator Representative Tonko has heard Danny's story.
Kirsten Gillibrand.
Kirsten Gillibrand, yes.
Gillibrand.
Kirsten Gillibrand has met with me. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And she's heard Danny's story. Okay. Our vice president has heard Danny's story. Rocana, on and on the list goes. So many politicians. And if you think Cuomo hasn't heard Danny's story, when he sat down with the health committee, who both Gustavo Rivera and Dick Godfrey, both in the health committee, are floored by Danny's story, and they're discussing the $20 payment on that essential plan. If you don't think that story was brought up, you'd be wrong. Now, do you know why Cuomo didn't reach out to me? Because I would have told Governor Cuomo, thank you for saying insurance companies cannot kill our children anymore for $20. But fuck you for making sure they're staying in business so they could kill somebody else's child for another dollar amount. He had the option of getting the New York health plan passed and removing the for-profit insurance industry from New York, and he chose to protect it.
Yeah, man, that's like, again, like I would like to say, offer my condolences for your loss and everything like that, man. Like it's so many, like I hear stories like this. That's honestly what got me into Medicare for all myself, was hearing the stories, because I used to be, like before getting political, like, oh, you work, you get healthcare, things like that. Well, some people don't, are don't have that privilege, don't have that, and people can't understand that. And when you hear the figures on how many people lose their lives because of lack of health insurance, and when you actually hear the stories, like, I now remember hearing you speak about Danny's story at the I think it was the Forced to Vote live stream that they did. I remember hearing about that now. And when you hear stories like that, it's just like, how can lawmakers sit here and tell you, like, wait, you feel me? Like, continue, like it's the same thing over and over again.
They love that word.
We were talking about the Bernie issue earlier, and since he's been brought on into the White House, now he's advocating for those reduce the age to 60, add vision, dental, and hearing. These are great breadcrumbs. And
that's not even doing anything.
That's not even screaming no middle ground over. And when I say, Bernie, what happened to reduce the age to 0? I catch flack. I said no middle ground. We all said no middle ground. Now we're supposed to be okay with middle ground.
And the dropping the age to 60 actually helps the insurance companies.
Yeah.
Who's costing them the most amount of money?
Sick people,
the 60 to 65-year-old people on insurance. Now the government's going to cover that.
Right.
And it's going to save the insurance companies even more money, because now they only have to worry about 59-year-olds as opposed to 60 and 65, 60 to 64-year-old age range.
And that's the argument I try to make with, just like the people around me, like, because like, I have more conservative leaning friends that don't understand, what they see what I'm saying, but they they basically think it's like giving people free shit, like handouts and things like that. And I'm trying to explain that's not what it is, man. Like there should not be profit should not exist in a lot of aspects of our society, and healthcare is definitely one of them. Yeah, capitalist society. And healthcare is definitely one of them. And it's
the fact that they're fact that I'm posting a vigil to read names of deceased people to profit these son of a bitches. Right there, it just sums up what is wrong with our system. Why should I be reading these names? Every single one of them was somebody's child, somebody's mother, somebody's father, brother, sister, lover. Every one of them had a life that was meant for something that's been extinguished for whether it's $20 or $2,000 or $1 million. It ain't right.
Yeah, and we're not going to be paying for it at a federal level. We can already pay for it. It's not, and it's already being paid.
Exactly.
And when people, you get some people on the right who are just maybe not, or any side of the spectrum who just don't agree with Medicare for all, they are under the guise that our taxes will go up for it, right? And our taxes can pay for it. Like we pay $1 trillion. I don't like the 750 billion for military budget because Pentagon has even more in there. Those through the all the 3-letter organizations in our government, but $1 trillion we can pay for Medicare for all over and over and over.
It really does get better than that, Chris, because even though they haven't been friends of mine, I don't know if you've heard of the modern money theory,
Yes.
but we don't need taxes to pay for it.
Yeah, we can just create the money.
The dollars and pay for it, just like we pay for the failed F-35.
Right.
That's absolutely no good, but cost us something like $10.7 trillion over 10 years.
Right.
Yep. Or last week, CBS News tweeted out, watch our government blow up $40,000 of explosives, 40,000 pounds of explosive in the ocean. And I love the leftists retweeting it saying, or we can just get Medicare for all, or we can, have free higher education, or we.
I tweeted out a joke. I was like, this is why the aliens don't like us. But yeah, man, definitely. Like we spend all this money on military, on empire, and that's one of the, honestly, like foreign policy is one of the things, I dig into a lot, because like when you look at like for example, we literally pay for Israel to have socialized medicine, literally, in the aid that we give them. In all of these other countries, like president after president, I think Donald Trump was the famous one. I think it was the Australian prime minister. He's like, you guys have a very good healthcare system. Maybe we should do it like that in America. Didn't know that it was single payer healthcare and things like that.
When our government makes it
I brought that up to my aunt too. She doesn't get that.
When our government makes it more expensive for organic foods than non-organic, and the organic farmers have to label theirs and non-organic does not, this stuff makes us sick, and then we have to pay for the sickness that they gave us. Wow.
It's not a coincidence.
It is not. The dollar is more important than the lives that generates their dollars for them.
Right.
And kind of like going in line with what's been in the headlines recently with the John McAfee, I think that's how you say his name or whatever.
McAfee, the virus guy.
Nipsey, there was a rapper, Nipsey Hussle. He was actually making a documentary about this holistic doctor named Dr. Sebi. And Dr. Sebi, like literally in court, proved that his holistic diet was a form of a cure for cancer, literally. And mysteriously, he died later on in like his jail cell and things like that the same way. So they don't want Western, how we teach health in Western society and things like that. It's in many ways very backwards. Like they start with sick care like that. Like, we have a sick care system. We don't have a healthcare system. They want people sick because it creates more profit. Where if you were teaching people, dieting, proper vitamins to take and shit like that, I think Joe Rogan talks about that a lot too. But my dad was teaching me that when I was living with him for years. These are the vitamins you should eat, vegetables. Teaching me what the things different vegetables will do for your body. They don't teach people this stuff. So it's I feel like healthcare single payer healthcare would definitely help in line with that as well, educating people about their health to prevent them from even getting sick in the first place. But kind of like in the situation, Scott, like you said with Danny, there's some people that are just, they need help. That's just what it is, regardless of whether it's mental health or physical health, whatever it is. And it's like the fact that, again, we have a profit motive, literally driving a wedge between people living safe and healthy lives. It's just, insane. And the fact that our so-called progressive politicians, don't want to fight for it, what is that? What is that?
Well, when it gets
it's a strategy, Bendu, you don't know about. There's things at play.
Yeah, it's a hidden strategy.
I was mentioning that thing with the vice president earlier. When this all went down, I had reached out to everybody that co-signed Bernie's bill and asked them to share Danny's story in support of Medicare for all. And I was surprised when Kamala shared it at that time. She was, running for president herself, and we all knew that she was kind of a centrist. So for her to support Medicare for all was a surprise for many of us. Mm-hmm. But that was 3 weeks before she introduced her plan for corporations like Centene that killed my son to sell us fucking Medicare. She used Danny's story as a commercial for those who murdered him. So when I see Bernie saying, well, you know what, let's find the middle ground here. No, he's right. It is better that seniors get vision, hearing, and dental. It is better that 60-year-olds, instead of having to wait to 65-year-olds, can get Medicare. Yes. And it is breadcrumbs. It's fucking breadcrumbs, man. It's not what we fought for. We said no middle ground. We said all, not another 4% of the population.
Medicare for all is the middle ground, in my opinion.
Yeah. To respond to what happened from that, that time frame 2-3 weeks later, from Kamala Harris supporting Medicare for all and Bernie, and then her coming up with her own plan, was she got infiltrated by the DNC. 100%. There's no other explanation for it.
No, my honest explanation is when she shared Danny's story, she already knew she was introducing her plan 3 weeks later.
Yeah, she knew what she was doing.
She absolutely knew what she was doing. She used it to garner support for herself and for that plan for the insurance companies. She absolutely knew she was using it as a commercial for them.
That's the Obama playbook 101. That's the same bullshit Obama used to do.
Did you say she was in support of Bernie's?
She said she co-signed his bill. Gotcha. And she would sign it or she would vote in favor of it if it came up for a vote. And then 3 weeks later, introduce her own Medicare for all plan instead.
Wow, that's such a disgrace to the name to call that Medicare for all.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just it. And like what I brought up to her is in the video that she shared, nowhere in that video
Medicare for all
does it say Medicare for all. In that video, it says that I blame the for-profit insurance industry, which her bill was not removing. So
he needed to find a way to be able to satisfy the capitalist society and the for-profit insurance companies and satisfy the DNC to get the thumbs up for her to be if her presidential campaign didn't go as well, she gets thumbs up to be the VP.
And I might like to add, I'm not some sort of Twitter hero or any crap like that, but her tweet got something like 7,000 retweets. My first Twitter attack on her tweet generated 3 times the retweets and 4 times the likes. If you don't think her digital media team didn't notice that, you'd be wrong.
Oh, she got ratioed. Everyone noticed that. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, and nothing from her. Not, Scott, I'm sorry that we didn't understand one another or any crap like that. And the tweet still is up, surprisingly. I thought she would have deleted it by now.
These people never apologize.
They're narcissists, man. They're narcissists. They're just going to pretend like it doesn't exist.
They're sociopaths. They'll never apologize. They'll never admit that they're wrong. Never.
Yeah. Well,
and even like one of the
gaslight you to the end of time.
And one of the points I like to talk about is like CNN and people like that. Like I think it was Wolf Blitzer that famously when they were talking about like shutting down weapons manufacturing, like bombs and things like that. He was like, well, what are those people supposed to do for jobs and things like that? I look at Medicare for all the same way. They say the same shit about people that work for health insurance. Well, it'll be so many jobs lost. I'm like, yeah, well, how about the switch to do all of the healthcare processes through the government is going to create more jobs. So how about we switch
government jobs?
Yeah. So how about we switch those people over there? And look, Joe Biden's president. He claims to be progressive. He can raise the minimum wage for federal employees with the flick of a fucking pen.
I like to bring up
which he did technically in like a few years.
If we get rid of the cartel, there's going to be taxi drivers and nursery school daycare centers that are put out of business. And that's a true story. because the cartel does fund daycare centers so that their people can show up for work. So we're going to put those people out of business. Hell yes, we're going to put them out of business if we take out the cartel. So what?
It's like that, and that concept is like saying nonprofit businesses and organizations can't exist and can't hire people because they don't make a profit. Nonprofits can pay just as, or even better, because they're not taking home a profit. It should be a non-profit, not-for-profit healthcare system. There should be no net revenue in when people are dying. There should be none.
It's the whole, like, I think Kyle Kalinske was talking about this today. It's the whole like protection of the owner class. Like everything in America is always viewed through the owner class, through the billionaire class,
the bourgeois.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, exactly. I've been reading the Communist Manifestos, and, but one of the things that like I was thinking, I thought that I had is like, why is that? Why? That's
got it with me in my backpack all the time.
Same copy I had, man. One of the things I'm like, why do we always like why do we implore people to bring this, like, to basically like favor, exploiting their fellow worker? Like the whole goal for a worker is, one day you can own your own business and exploit your fellow worker the way
maybe
we do.
You can be a billionaire just like Donald Trump one day, or just like Jeff Bezos. If you work hard enough, you'll get there.
Now, Donald Trump is literally like the fakest billionaire I've ever
met
in my life.
That was a bad example.
And I used to be like Shareef probably knows my backstory. I talk about it all the time on my channel. I used to be a mild Trump supporter. It wasn't like the MAGA hat wearing type. Like I wasn't out there. I just liked his policies until I realized, oh, nah, like I like what he's saying, but what he's doing, I don't like. And, I'm more in line with the thought. I'm for a single payer. Like when I literally sat down and wrote down all of the things I liked about Trump and saw what I liked, and, it turned out to be progressive policy. So I was like, oh shit, because I used to not identify as a leftist. I used to identify as basically, a non-political person. Like I don't affiliate with a party or anything like that. And I still really don't. Like I talk about it on my channel all the time. I don't like to call myself a leftist. You feel me? Because I like if the conservative ideology worked and was good for people, I'd be for it. It just doesn't fucking work. For the most part, It doesn't work. So it's like, my thing is, it's like, when like it's always the billionaires telling the masses of people, people like Donald Trump, oh, you don't need this. This is what we need to do. And it's like, motherfucker, you don't live my life. You don't like work 9 to 5 with me every day. I come from a worker's background. I'm a forklift driver and shit like that. So it's like, I see this shit all the time. I'm blessed to have a family that helps me out a lot. Like I'm on my mom's insurance, so I benefit from Obamacare, and I'm still a person that's like, yo, like this is insane. The fact that, if my mom didn't work for, work and have a job that offers her those benefits, I'd be fucked. I'd be out on my ass. So it's like seeing, your fellow man. I don't get how you can like look at your fellow man struggling like that and still say, oh, you need to fucking work harder. It's because you're fucking lazy. It's the same thing with the whole wage.
Those are the hardest working Americans out there. It's the reason why the economy runs.
Yeah.
And Wall Street is not the economy.
And that's why the reason why the owner class is always protected is because we're always exploited, because they have the wealth, they exploit you, and that they're going to do whatever it takes to keep exploiting you so they can keep their wealth. It's simple as that. So simple calculus.
Exactly. And I've definitely been paying attention a lot because like I come from like an entertainment, like music, film background and shit like that. And the more political I've become, the more I see like they literally put this shit in the film, in the movies. And that's why I'm like, when a lot of the right talks about like this like left-wing agenda, this communist socialist agenda and shit like that, I'm like, look, I get that they do put a lot of identity politics in the media and things like that. But in terms of like, if you listen to what what a lot of these movies are saying, when you break down the messaging, even the music, I come from a hip-hop background. All they talk about is women, money, and cars now in hip-hop. Same thing in movies. It's always about like becoming this better person. I think Wonder Woman 84 touched on it good, even though it was a shitty movie, where like the main villain, he's literally like, life is good, but it can be better. And his whole thing is giving people all these, the fantasy they want to live and shit like that. He's like an 80s salesman, con man, salesman type of character. Yeah. But I feel like that's what they're selling.
To go off. Yeah. I recently just learned.
It, brother. With This Is America.
Yes.
Childish Gambino.
Oh yeah.
Yes, man. Like.
Oh yeah. I recently just learned this past weekend a movie that we all probably watched tons of times, Home Alone, the first Home Alone movie. Mm-hmm. It's literally anti-communist and anti Russian. The whole movie is about getting the little chip in the RC car because it's a chip for like a Russian nuke, and it's like indoctrinating to like children to like fear like communism and fear Russia, and like all they do is they all single payer healthcare. They all provide like basic rights, free education, free healthcare, like all of those things.
I tell this to my left wing friends and family, my right wing friends and family. Like when you look at the overall, like America's political compass is so far out of whack. Like if you look at like just on healthcare, Joe Biden is further right than the most far right party in any other country in the fucking world. Solely based off the fact that he's against socialized medicine, just based off of that fact. And like it's I know I keep saying it's insane, but like I just don't get how like people don't see this. You feel me? Like it's like we want to just ignore Trudeau, the rest of the world.
Up north is like is like a left center, like according to like the global spectrum and the Canadian spectrum. And you put Joe Biden on the same spectrum, he's far right. Like it's the American political spectrum is so skewed. Go ahead, Scott.
The reason is that our view is so skewed is because we're too fucking proud as Americans. We have the best healthcare system in the world. Over and over, pounded it to us by our MSM, repeated and parroted over and over again. And how dare we think somebody else has something better than us?
Exactly.
Yes, we're paying more. It's more expensive.
America's the best at everything.
But
military, everything. You could say healthcare. We can't hold our own country accountable because we've just been indoctrinated as children. We stand up there at 6 years old saying we pledge allegiance to a flag, which is insane.
The message we're giving to people is you were lied to. Your mom lied to you. Your dad lied to you. Everybody that loves you lied to you, and you're wrong. And nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. Not only do you not have the best, but everybody that loves you lied to you. Now shut up and get in line.
Yeah.
And that's what we're telling them. And because we have to.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear it.
Yeah. And people are scared. People are scared of, admitting their, and people are scared of like just progressing as well. I commend you, Bendu, about like explaining like you were a mild supporter of Trump. Like I grew up as a Catholic conservative, went to private school my whole life. And like, I voted, I was a registered Republican, and I voted for Mitt Romney when I was my freshman year of college. And I voted for Donald Trump in 2016. It was before I like had a political awakening, before I like actually understood how things worked in our country. And then admittedly, I voted for Joe Biden this time around. In the last few years, I've only voted blue until I've started to realize, blue and red, they're the same thing. Yeah. It's blue MAGA or regular MAGA. It's all the same.
Yeah, QAnon, you got blue anon.
I finally, like the last straw for me was the very last straw for me for ever supporting like Democratic or DNC was when I in Columbus, Ohio. I have no ties to Georgia. I grew up in New York, grew up on Long Island, and then went to Philly, lived in Philly for 4 years at Temple, and then went to Missouri, and now I'm in Ohio.
I'm from the
no
area
ties to Georgia. I was calling, heck yeah, go Temple. Yeah, I was calling for Ossoff and Warnock in Georgia to get the Senate to flip blue. Mm-hmm. And then to be told, you get us blue, we get the $2,000 checks. We get the $2,000 checks. And not a $400 down payment from Donald Trump and then a $1,600 check, for the remainder. Once we get that was not Trump. The commercial. That was not the commercials you ran, Joe. That was not the commercials you ran, Ossoff and Warnock. And even Bernie said we get 2,000. And then Bernie flipped. Even that was the first time I first flipped on Bernie. Was he said, "Oh yeah, we get the rest of that. It's $2,000 checks. We're gonna get you that 1,600, like we promised." I'm like, "What are you talking about, Bernie?
Yo, excuse
Why
my
would
French.
You say that?
Excuse my French.
2,000. Everyone said 2,000.
Everyone said 2,000.
It was 2,000 on top of the 400. That was $2,400. And you said we're gonna get more. And we haven't seen jack shit.
Exactly.
You know who gave us more money? Donald Trump gave us more money. Joe Biden never.
Yes.
Well, Joe Biden plans on giving us more because he's got to give the police more money, and you know we know how that goes.
Yeah,
You also are aware how much insurance companies got during that last stimulus?
Because they were funding Cobra. I remember that. Nancy
Not
Pelosi was.
before Cobra. There's
Okay.
a total of 1.2 billion because there was first, I believe, 48 million that went to them just as a stimulus. Because during the 2020, when they had their most profitable year ever, they needed a stimulus package to keep them afloat, like every other corporation. And then they got on top of that the 56 million to support 60.2 million people for 6 months on Cobra, because we all know Cobra insurance gives you so much better health care than regular standard plan, right? Or is it the same? I think it's the same, but that's better because it's American.
And that's like, excuse my French, just to go back, like Bernie's the biggest pussy I've ever seen in my life. I'm sorry.
Biggest pussy
ever in my life.
He's a cuck. He is a cuck.
Yo, when Jimmy was saying that,
Yeah, that's the best definition for him. Like he got cucked by DNC twice. They've said it. It's on the books in courtroom filings, on the record in the courtroom. We could go in a back room, in a cigar-filled back room, and pick whoever the hell we want because we're a private organization. They said it in 2016. They proved it. It happened to him again in 2020. And then what does he do? He proudly supports Joe Biden.
I proudly support
my
good friend Joe Biden.
And then what's he get? You know in return? Nothing in the cabinet.
You know what?
Oh, he
becomes the financial committee chair. That's it. That's all he gets.
He gets the vote for Neera Tanden as the OMB director. That's what he got.
Easily dropped out as Democrat. Literally, went as independent and still won the race. No one would have went against Bernie if he did that. Matter of fact, he would say, the ball's on this fucking guy. Let's nominate him. Let's win.
When I heard him say "my friend Joe," I knew it was over then.
It was over at that point.
I still think. And I don't know if it would have
him being the sexist that they wrote, and he knew that they were going to write that narrative when he said it.
Right.
I don't know if he ran independent, it would have happened. I don't think he would have won. I think too many people are too scared. It would have been the spoiler effect. If there was ranked choice voting, which he would have won by a landslide. He would have been that number one choice for over half the country.
I'm saying that I think Bernie would have probably still would have won. But if it came down to like Biden, Bernie, and Trump, oh man, dude, I think Bernie would have won that.
Bernie would have won easily.
I think we'd see a close like 33% split. Like I think it'd be close. I think it'd be tight because there's too many people who are just too scared. You know?
I could definitely see, because
of like choice A or choice B.
Yeah, with the MSM pushing, you gotta vote for Joe or we're gonna get Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
How about
which to me is like I'm working with Rank the Vote Ohio as well, nonpartisan, just like Medicare for all, and we got people from all sides of the spectrum. To me, that's where I think the true change that's the first step to true change. With ranked choice voting, you will get the power back to the people. You will get people who are less scared of a spoiler effect, less scared of the lesser of two evil effect, and it gives opportunity to those third parties. That I'm a big fan of ranked choice voting, which is almost a bare minimum.
Since we just talking about Mike Gravel, I think we should just move right into a direct democracy.
Hell yeah!
I just really feel that based off all this conversation, we're all in this fight. Literally, because our politicians do not give a fuck about us.
Yeah, Shareef.
And I don't believe the other two options are even possible. I mean, if they did go through,
right?
He has said so many times, "I will just veto it."
I will veto it, right?
So why is that even a? I understand we have to have the conversation, but why is the conversation longer than 2 minutes? Like direct. Let me ask you this: I'm entering law school in the fall as a first year. Can a president veto a direct democracy vote?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. You've crossed the lines from democracy to fascism.
Right.
That's that. There's no in between. It's straight. Not that he already is. He is already.
He's a fascist.
He is a fascist. But now we're direct fascism instead of direct democracy.
And for people out there,
it's no longer democracy.
For people who out there who are saying, "Oh, you're crossing the line, calling Joe Biden a fascist," let me tell you why he's a fascist. But break it down for you.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
If the American people ask for something and you say you're going to veto it, you are a fascist. End of story. There's no way possible you can argue against that. You're a fascist.
And to add on to that,
right? You're a fascist. If you just told the American people, I'm going to veto your decision. I don't care if the majority says, I want this. I'm going to say no.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is the number 80% of Americans want Medicare for all?
86% of Democrats and around it floats between like 65 up to like 79% of the vast majority of Americans. And I think it's like 60% of Republicans.
Well, that's majority of Americans.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So he's
literally telling, there you go. There's the number.
Telling most of America to go fuck themselves, literally.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, one good thing we have going for us is, studying a lot of different movements. We are at the breaking point. We are at the finish line. We are going to win this, because if you look through everything, that every single movement, whether it's, Black voting rights, whether it's women's voting rights, on and on, it has to get to the point where we are now, where they're fighting us tooth and nail every single way they can to stop us. Shareef, you bringing this march the way you have, you've scattered the shit out of them, brother. And they're listening. And this is where we're at. We're going to win this, and it's going to happen sooner than we believe. And it's because we're making the noise, and they have to hear us.
No, I agree with Scott 1,000%. I feel that the more and more, I don't know. I had a previous interview where I told people that I think that within 10 years, and some people think that, that's an overreach. And I don't think so. I agree with Scott's point. I think that it happens sooner rather than later. I was saying 10 years because literally I feel that we can continue to prime pressure the way we're doing. I guarantee within 10 years, we'll definitely get it. 100%. I do believe in the American people. I do believe that we're a lot more capable than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that we keep applying pressure. We keep getting out there. We keep getting loud. We keep getting, really going phone baking, making phone calls, texting, emailing, knocking on people's doorsteps, literally going to people's offices. I think that they will have to give it to us eventually.
Shareef, were you involved in Force the Vote at all?
Yeah, I joined the Force the Vote Slack. I was on there. I was trying to be more active, and that's how I actually got involved. I'll give a little context to my story for people who probably don't know.
Yeah. Before you go into that, I guess my question was, because there was like a gap, and maybe the pandemic may have been a component of that, but where that like Force the Vote happened and that like pushed, and then the vote wasn't forced, and I feel like that movement died down. Like whoever is in that Force the Vote Slack, whoever those leaders are, that died down, and Medicare for all, March for Medicare for all, I feel like took that place.
Yeah, I feel like it took the place of Force the Vote.
There's a dip. What happened in that dip, and where did all those people go that aren't part of here? Where are they now?
No, yeah. So I'll definitely go into that. So I'm new to activism and organizing. Full stop. The first time I ever voted was last year when I voted for Jesse Ventura. And the reason why I voted for Jesse Ventura is because literally I didn't even know you even had an option to vote either Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and then Independent. You can even have like multiple different options. So I didn't even know that was on the table, because in my neighborhood, like people just tell you vote Democrat, don't ever vote Republican.
Blue, no matter who.
Right, all the time. Blue, never vote for anybody else. I was like, okay, so I assume like that's the way it was. Like you just vote Democrat or Republican. That's it. So
which is the most dangerous thing ever, because you ask nothing in return for your vote.
Exactly.
Right.
Nothing.
Right. And what make matters worse, when I heard of Draft Jesse, I was like, wait a minute, I'm 37 years old. I've never heard of any other options when I heard the Draft Jesse movement. So there was educating people on the voting process and the different ways you can vote. You don't have to vote Democrat or Republican or Independent. There's Libertarian Party. There's different things you can do. You can do a write-in. I never heard of a write-in process before. You could literally write someone's name in. I've never heard of that. And so obviously that's by design. So I was like, well, that's interesting. I was like, well, I actually want to partake in that, because I actually like Jesse Ventura. I'm going to vote for him because, again, I never knew that was a process. You can do that. But anyway, circling back to how I got into activism and organizing. So when Bernie dropped out, not the fact he lost and not the fact he dropped out, was when he dropped out and said, now is not the time for Medicare for all. That to me made me want to be proactive. I said, okay, there's something wrong here. We got to do something about this. And like most people, I was like, well, let me sit back and wait, because you always hear about this. There's things in the background. There's things working for you. There's, these politicians are making these deals. You always hear this conversation, right? So I was like, all right, let me just calm down.
Just
Like
wait.
the Sixers saying trust the process for like 10 fucking years and never getting anywhere.
Right, exactly. Right. So I was like, you know what? Let me wait. Let's see what happens, right? So once the vote happens, I said, okay, let's get ready. This is what maybe Bernie was when he said at the time.
Dude, Jimmy took
maybe
shit for that, man. He took so much shit for that.
Maybe this is what he was talking about. So I was like, okay, we got forced to vote. Jimmy Dore bringing this up idea. Maybe it's not his idea. Maybe this is what the backroom deals they're talking about. Maybe this is what is at play here. So then when that happened, I was like, okay, when the squad and everyone else said, fuck you, I was like, okay, now I got to get involved. Now I need to be an activist and organizer. But even then, I didn't like say, I'm going to create a march. I literally joined the Forced to Vote Slack to see what they're doing. What plans do you have? What's going on? What do you got doing? I even joined other different groups like Moving for People's Party. I joined Our Revolution group, the Green Party group. I was asking, okay, well, are we going to do a march? What's the next step? What's the plans? What are we going to do? Because I was really curious about the fact that Forced to Vote happened. We're in a pandemic. Why are we not having a conversation about getting people Medicare for all? This is the crowning moment. If there's ever a chance to make the biggest argument for Medicare for all,
now's the time when there's a global damn pandemic.
COVID is it. If you need another explanation, it's COVID should be like the nail in the coffin. And the fact that none of these other organizations, none of these other groups, no other politicians said, hey, Medicare for all right now, this would embolden me to say we got to do a march. Because I didn't think about planning a march. I didn't plan about being an activist. Didn't plan about being an organizer. Matter of fact, to a larger degree, I wish I could stay home with my kids and watch Netflix. But I know I can't do that anymore. You know what I mean? Like going back to brunch doesn't exist. So being an activist, being an organizer is pretty much kind of like set in stone for me now, right? Until we actually get this.
Yeah, man. I definitely feel that, bro. Because it's like. And that's why I'm looking into, getting involved, with things myself, because it's like I kind of went through the same, story as you. Once I got off the Trump wagon, I got into the Bernie wagon. And that's when I found out, oh, he's not a fighter. And then, it's wait for this, wait for that. Then it was like,
you guys have said the word wait a lot. And I don't know if you guys have you seen on Netflix, there's a documentary series called Amend, The Fight for America.
No.
It's really good. It's Will Smith's the host. But it's 6 episodes and it starts about, the 13th Amendment and racial inequality in America. And then it's all about the 13th Amendment. And then it moves into women's rights and then LGBTQ rights and gay marriage rights. And throughout the entire series, they talk about the word wait. At some point in these movements, everyone is always told, just wait, right? When I had no idea until I watched this, the first black senator was ever in the United States history was in like 1870.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had no idea, from Mississippi. Yeah. There was like 3 or 4, and then there was none for like another 100+ years, 120 years, right?
I think I talked about this when Shareef last time you came on here. Dude, there's a lot of history that we do not know, not just in America, but overall, just like world history overall that either was hidden, from us, not told, destroyed, whatever it is. So much history, man. Like I've been learning. I've been learning
I'll tell you what, when you talk about history, one of the things that really disgusts me, we've all heard the wives' tale of George Washington's wooden teeth. Mm-hmm. His teeth were not wooden.
They were made from the slaves
lined up. And a dentist came over, inspected his slave's teeth, and they pulled the best ones for George's mouth. Mm-hmm. The leader of the founder of this country.
You ain't know that, Shareef?
We never hear that in the history books, do we?
No, we do not.
Shit right
I didn't know that's how his teeth were made. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was common practice. I'm
not surprised.
No, wow.
But
going back to the word wait, Shareef has heard me say this. Every time I hear wait on Medicare for all, one point I want to bring up, that Yale study that we've all heard says 68,000 insured Americans die every single year. We also have to add on the other 24,000 people that die every single year that are uninsured the same way, not being able to afford. That's a total of 92,000 people. That's 262 people today that can't wait.
Right.
262 people tomorrow can't wait.
Yep.
They can't wait. We don't wait. They ran out of time for waiting.
Yeah.
And every single day, 262 more brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, and sons will die.
Yeah. And it's a cycle. This cycle is vicious. If you go back and you see in the early 1960s, Martin Luther King went to JFK when he was president and asked him, to get rid of, to abolish segregation. And he was just told, wait. He literally wrote up to adjust the 13th Amendment, and he was just told, wait. And when back in the 1860s, when slaves were freed, they wanted to, have full citizenship. And it's like, well, you just got freed from slavery. Just wait a bit. Like, don't push it too much. And it's always, and it doesn't change until there's a violent uprising. And like, that's literally the only way things have changed throughout our history.
That seems the only.
It's just viciously. You guys, we'll get it 60 and up. Instead of 65 and up, we'll go 60 and up. Just wait for the next 5 years. We'll go to 55. Just wait. We gave you that. No, there is no wait. This is happening.
There's never no waiting. And, I hate to bring it up. You make a great point. Every time things happen faster, it's because of violence.
100%.
And I hate to be the one to address the
52 years ago, today was the first ever riot. Stonewall riots happened 52 years ago today. I think it was June 28th, 1969. And it happened because Marsha P. Johnson was done with getting beaten the shit out of by NYPD and decided to throw a fucking brick at a cop's face. And that wasn't the end. It wasn't just the one brick. It turned into the entire Stonewall bar just threw a massive riot. And it went on. And then a year later was the first Pride Parade in New York City. And that was the start of one of the starts. There's some in San Francisco like months and a year or two earlier, but that is the first Pride Parade ever in 1969. And, they were always told to wait. They've gotten slight little breadcrumbs like we've mentioned, right? But the violent uprising was the first time there was change, right?
And it sucks to me that it takes people to be violent just to get something that should be a basic human right. And, I always tell people that that we need to be as Americans, not violent, but we need to be very aggressive in our messaging. We need to put a hard line stance. And I think the problem with the left, because we talked about this earlier, is that we don't fight aggressively, because we're very passive. So that word wait is something that we do to ourselves.
It's a little more polite, which the left loves trying to be polite.
We just watched them storm the Capitol for Donald Trump and corporate tax cuts. The fact that people aren't the same, don't have that same type of energy for healthcare, a living wage in this country, any other progressive value that we're talking about, that they're like, oh, well, we can wait. All these like progressive hosts that tell you to wait. Like, oh my God.
People would hate me for saying this, but if those guys who stormed the Capitol and they did that for healthcare, I would have been there. I would have been there. I would have chosen them. I would have left my job.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, we're not just talking. I mentioned this we're talking U.S. history, right? When there's only real changes happen when there's a revolution, right? And that's not just U.S. history. We're talking global history. Right. Working class revolutions that's where the biggest change have happened for working class throughout world history. We're talking from, for all working class movements, it's revolutions have made change. And I'm not condoning we need to have a violent revolution, but if things aren't changed, history has proven it's going to become a violent revolution.
This country.
And I'm not saying that's not what our march is at all. But I'm saying if 15 years down the line we don't have it, that don't say it and say it.
Right, no, for sure.
Yeah, when that happens,
that's why I said, right.
I'm going to be the first one up there, and I'll tell you what, I got a heart condition. I'll probably be the first one down on the ground. But I've been trying to avoid a violent revolution. But once it starts, that's a breaking point, and I'm in, because they killed my kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right. No, agreed. And I think they I think for the most part, I think the establishment kind of know that. I think they know that. I think they're smarter. I think they're smarter than us to know that they know a button to push.
They know, and they're just waiting, right? There's that W word again.
Yeah,
That's
they're
why-
seeing the breaking point, and they're gonna give it to us right before we break and call that Friday for Revolution. That's
Right.
my hope.
See, and look, and
Well, no. To add to that point, I was talking to my buddy about this, about the Chipotle thing, right? About the 5 for 15 that's going on right now in the country.
Okay, yeah.
Chipotle gave all the employees now $15 minimum wage because you had a lot of these people striking and protesting and shutting up a lot of these.
And that's not something to be proud of, right? That's
no, it's not.
the
Not at
minimum.
all. But my point is that Chipotle knows that if they don't do something, they might be next. So they always know when to do something. All right, guys, here's your $15.
Wait till the very last second before.
Right.
Speaking of minimum wage, on Ohio State's campus, the McDonald's on campus, they have a big sign out there. We're paying $12 an hour minimum wage. And I took a photo of it like that. Like they're literally bragging about how much money they're paying.
Right.
That's the minimum. That's not like something like that's called the bare minimum, not something to be proud of.
Right. My job, the only reason why I'm able to afford to take care of my kids, because I work on tips. So my job pays me $10 an hour, and I get tips. I'm a tipped employee, and I've literally told my management, "You're not going to get any more people here until you raise the minimum wage. You're just not. You're not going to get it. You need to get offered not just benefits, because I have healthcare too to do my job. The first thing they always offer you, hey, let's pay for your health insurance. Ain't going to cut it. It's not going to work.
That doesn't pay the bills.
Doesn't pay the bills. It's not going to work. Not going to work.
The biggest thing you could do, which I've learned, a lot of us have learned throughout this past year, is cash in hand is the biggest way to change someone's life and impact someone's life. Cash in hand.
They just gave Jeff Bezos a $10 billion second place trophy. Like they always say, like, oh, there's no such thing as second place trophies in a free market economy. Y'all just fucking gave Jeff Bezos one. So it's like, and they never have to
second place.
They never have to wait. The billionaire class, they never have to wait for their money. The hedge funds never have to wait for their money ever.
You know what's so funny? Bendu, you know what's so funny? We had a meeting where a different group for March and Medicare for All, and we were talking about strategy, because we're also talking about demands that we're going to actually have for the marches, because demands will definitely be made. And one of the things was brought up was that how do we resolve the issue of implementing these so-called demands? And I said, well, think about it. We went to this point. The ruling class never have to wait. They get what they want in 3 days. We want the exact same thing. You have 24 hours. You have 3 days to implement Medicare for All. We're not waiting any longer than that. I personally feel that when we do these marches, asking for the American people for anything less is a slap in the face. It's 100% a slap in the face. I will not go out in good faith, march in the streets and tell the American people, we're demanding something, but guess what, guys? 3 years. That's ridiculous.
Should have happened with the beginning of the pandemic.
Right. Exactly.
It did happen. We got it for the pandemic. We got free. If you went in anything COVID related, like to get a test, who paid for a test here?
Right. Covered. Right now with the vaccine. Right now, if you want to go to the hospital,
free vaccines. You know what's really funny? Anybody else?
Every hospital in New York City right now will not charge you for the vaccine. Will not. You can go right in New York City and get a vaccine shot for COVID.
Yeah. Same in Ohio. You know what's really funny? I've seen I'm a big TikTok watcher, and I'll be on TikTok and I'll see like somebody stitch a video and it's a really far right person being like, we get these COVID vaccines for free. You ever think about why we don't get insulin for free or our medication for free? And then it like switches to like, a liberal a practice like, oh, you're so close. You're so close.
Yes,
you're right there.
There was a guy named Bernie Sanders. He talked about this a lot.
That's it. You're right
called
there.
him a communist.
So close. We got you. It can happen. It's called Medicare for All.
There was a guy that just ran for president talking about that, and you guys called him a fucking communist.
Exactly. Exactly. And it sucks that it took 500,000 people to die in a global pandemic for some, but like for some people to realize that. But
yeah, man. So I guess and Shareef and guys, I want to get into this because like again, like I'm genuinely asking because I don't know the full scope of the drama going on right now surrounding March for Medicare for All. So if you guys know about it and can explain it to me, because like I said, I've been out of the loop recently on Twitter. So please explain to me what's going on with that.
Yeah. So just
Shareef, when did you discover it? You mind me asking like your timeline?
I discovered everything the day of. That was yesterday, actually, because I really don't know. So
Sunday morning, yeah.
Sunday morning. So I'm gonna give full disclosure about our group for March for Medicare for All and let people know like what's going on. So most of the activists and organizers in the group, like myself, are new. We know very little about anything. So we're pretty much green. So partly that is our fault, and we do need to take ownership of that. So I do apologize for people being heard.
And can I cut you off real quick? Why do we have to go to fucking activist school to be an activist? I thought like an activist was just like a random person.
I will explain why that is. I will definitely explain why that is. So on the left, this is definitely something I don't know if it happens on the right, so I don't know. But on the left, if you are someone who or like linked to, let's say, a powerful organization or a powerful politician, you're considered serious because you can get things done. So for us on the left, it's to be considered credible or organized or a real activist is nothing more to do with the fact that it's like high school. It's all about high school. It's all about money. Who you're aligned with, who you're social with. Anyone can go out and be
who's lining the pockets. That's the difference. That's what they're trying to do.
Popularity is all popularity. It has nothing to do with anything else. Anyone's an activist. Anyone can be an organizer. Anyone can go out tomorrow, do their own march, do their own rally. I did a protest, and before
Shareef, that kind of sounds like the bullshit political system that we're trying to work around right now. It sounds exactly like the same thing a little bit. Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's a little again, to go echo this point again, it's double standards. We want to say we want to get out of the duopoly, but then we still ultimately still work within the duopoly. We still play by their rules and by their system. We let them define what activism is, what organizing is, what is real, what isn't real, and you can't do that. So so full disclosure, our group, March for Medicare for All, we're a coalition. We're a nonpartisan group. We don't partner or endorse or anything like that. We have any allegiance to anybody. We're just a group of activists, group of organizers who just want Medicare for all. And so we don't have a hierarchical structure. We don't have a boss. No one comes in, tells someone what to do. We pick a task to do it, and we just do it. So there isn't no checks and balances. There isn't anything that a normal, I guess, for lack of a better word, a national organization would do. So if someone wants to go organize a march and have a solidarity event with us, they can. Like, for example, Bendu, if you wanted to do tomorrow a march in Delaware, you can. No one can stop you. We would say, okay, here's the green light, and now you have a march for Medicare for All in your own state. So the point is, with how we organize our marches is all solidarity events. Anyone can participate. We just ask for people to have the March for Medicare for All banner so we can show that these are all together. We're coming together. We're trying to build a coalition for healthcare. That's the idea.
Okay.
So which I must say, the positive in that and why is the reason why we're able to grow to 34 cities in like less than a week, and to go from less than 20 to 14 cities over like a week span is because of how accessible it is, just like it should be for running for office in a democracy. If you wanted to run, you should be able to run. You shouldn't have to gather 5,000 signatures. You shouldn't have to gather 10,000 signatures to do it. That's a true democracy. Same thing with organizing, the same exact concept.
That goes to my point that we're working in their system. We need to remove that system, and it doesn't work. It's not effective. This is effective. We're literally telling somebody who in their state They can run their own march. They can do their own rally. You can do whatever you want. You can do a march. You can do a rally. You can do a car campaign. You can do a bike run. You can be on a corner of wherever you live and say, "Woo, March for Medicare for All," and you're pretty much validated in the fact that you're practicing activism.
Or even digital, like we have one.
People look into activism as a workshop thing you need to do. Like you need to be trained. Activism is literally just asking for change. That's all it is. You're asking, you see a problem, something in your society, and you're saying that I have a problem with that, and you're making your voice be heard. That's activism. There's nothing magical. There's no training that needs to be required to organize and be an activist. It just doesn't.
That's the same way they try to do like journalists like Aaron Matei, Eva Bartlett, all these people. You have to have a journalist. You have to go to journalism school.
There's no journalism school. You're a journalist because you say you're a journalist. You're an activist because you say you're an activist. You're a writer because you say you're a writer.
Exactly.
Now, whether or not you're a good writer, whether or not you're a good journalist, whether or not you're a good activist is irrelevant. But you're a journalist because you do the job of a journalist. You're a writer because you do the job as a writer, and you're an activist because you do the job as an activist. That's it. It's not rocket science. It's nothing complicated. But the mainstream media will do that to you. They will tell you, oh, this person's a real activist. This person's a real journalist. This person's a real writer. And it's ridiculous. It absolutely makes no sense.
And then you'll get the quote unquote progressives who claim to be, so against the establishment media, follow right along with that media and literally smear people, like regular people. Like Shareef, you're a regular working class person putting this shit together, and they're smearing you in that way. That's what infuriates me. When it's like you take the power, you're taking the power out of the hands for the people. It's kind of like the whole Bitcoin thing. I try to explain this to my homie. Like, you cannot define Bitcoin by Elon Musk. You have to define Bitcoin by the people. That's what Bitcoin was supposed to be, to get away from the billionaires.
Well, that's the thing. Not to get away from what we were talking about, but my aunt, for example, she believes that Medicare for All is a bad thing, not based on her own personal study, is based on what she hears about the talking points of mainstream media. So for her, when I tell her that all mainstream media is bullshit, she's really Shareef, all of them, that's a little bit of conspiratorial. You know what I mean? For her, that's an overreach for her. She doesn't believe that there's when I tell her that Medicare for All saves American government money, right? Her argument is, then if it does, why would they do that? Why would they allow it to happen? You know what I mean? Like, so for her, it's a little out of her element to have those kind of discussions with her. And a lot of Americans,
it saves us money, but it doesn't save the profiting insurance companies.
And it takes
and
money
they're all
out of
run
the
by
pockets
the
of
media is all run by the same 4 or 5 companies.
She's not special because a lot of people have her same sentiment.
Yeah.
They don't understand it. They don't believe it. They think we're conspiracy theorists because she really believes that.
We're in the minority and she's in the majority. And that's
like, she really believes that we're all conspiracy theorists and we need to get a job. She believes
literally,
that.
I would break down the story to your aunt about how, like, literally in a court case, they just said like Rachel Maddow's show, and
Rachel Maddow is the same thing as Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, but they said their show was not informative. Like, literally in a court case, they officially have been deemed not informative. Basically, like just entertainment.
I would love that, to show her that, because she's one of these people who just watches the news all day, all the time. She just drinks the Kool-Aid of anything that mainstream media just gives her.
It's entertaining. That's what it's there for.
Right.
I guess to go back around to Bendu, do we want to inform any of the listeners on what I guess the situation on Twitter was?
Yes.
At all?
So, I think so.
Like,
yeah,
break it down, because like I said, I don't know anything about it.
I woke up early Sunday to the Slack and I saw a screenshot of the months. There was a march that was supposed to be organized in Muncie.
Which is not true, actually. There was never a Muncie, Indiana march. And so
I haven't seen it in a list either, like a graphic.
We got infiltrated by people in our Slack group and also on our Zoom. And that's the thing when you have the problem with we're a decentralized coalition. And so someone in that group sent that photo to our graphics team. Our graphics team did not fact check this.
The only way they would be able to fact check is if you knew what his face looked like, because they sent an abbreviated fake name of Matt Bach. And I, in the morning, saw this and I was like, I don't know who Matt Bach is. I did frantically, Matt Bach, white nationalist, Matt Bach, Nazi, Matt Bach, neo-Nazi, Matt Bach, MAGA, nothing.
Now
Nothing exists from Matt Bach.
I'm asking because I don't know.
No, it's fine.
Is he really, is he really what they say he is?
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
On the Wikipedia, it does say former. And me being a true believer in Fred Hampton, and he was able to bring, I'm not saying that's what we're doing, but he was able to bring together white supremacists and Black Panther people to fight for the same thing. And I do believe if he's former, like I don't know who he is here, but people can change. People can progress and change, but I'm not saying that it's all what he is.
Right.
There's a clear infiltration.
My point, whether he's a former, whether he's current, isn't the issue. My issue was a security issue. That was my issue. My issue was more the fact that our Slack group and our working space, our coalition space, has been infiltrated by people who obviously don't want us to have Medicare for all. Because this is why they're doing this. They're not doing this to imp us up. They're doing this to tear us down. So what
gets me was, I mean, what sucks about our national call on Sunday was we spent the first 25 minutes talking all about this.
Right, and you're not getting work done either. Yeah.
And then we moved on, and we were exactly on the dot for an hour and a half or 90 minutes. And this person sat in there the entire 90 minutes and waited till the very end, listened to everything we had to say, and then infiltrated and started. He flipped his name. Whoever they are, they changed their name on Zoom. They renamed themselves. Like they were rapidly, every time I looked, it was a new name. And he changed it to different people that were on the screen. We had 50 people almost in there. Right. He just changed it to like Shane, to like, he just kept changing his name. So you knew who this person was. And they would come in and they would just start cursing and just start trash talking us.
Right. And also to add injury, that happened in our Slack as well. Our Slack's been compromised as well, not just the Zoom and not just.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, that makes sense. If he has a Zoom link, then he is in the Slack.
And that's also too, like we have a general Slack. We have a general Zoom link that's on our website. And then one of my organizers gave me a different link than the one that was listed on the website by accident. Not on purpose, by accident. And then so people couldn't even get into our meeting. So they put it in Slack. And so they can actually get access to the Zoom link. So we know that the person is hanging out in our Slack, not somebody who went on the website and just joined the meeting. This is someone who's actually literally infiltrated our group.
So is it one person or multiple people?
It's multiple people for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
There was two Zoom links. The original Zoom link.
I had a security meeting already. No,
did you know there was an original Zoom link that when people went to, it said there was a different meeting in progress by this person? Was that the original proper Zoom link?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Zoom contacted us and told us that we've been compromised. So they actually contacted us and let us know we've been compromised.
And the guy even during the Zoom, he like fake did that. Did you know that too? Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. In the Zoom, this guy would be like, "This is so-and-so from Zoom. You have a breach of security." Like he was literally acting like he works for Zoom and he joined our call.
And the other issue too, that a lot of allies and a lot of members in our group they're gone. They're not gonna join us anymore. They're not gonna be with us anymore because of this issue. And a lot of people online says that, oh, they should have fact checked this, and oh, these guys are neo-Nazis, and these guys work with. I'm
like, I know Shareef. I fucking talked to Shareef. You know, like that's not who he is. That's why I'm sitting here like I'm raging out. Like I'm sitting here in my basement raging out and everything because I'm like, hold up, y'all not gonna sit here and disparage bull like that. First of all, and second of all, like,
no one even asked me either. No one even asked me. No one asks. Is this true? Is this real? Is this an error? What's going on? What happened? Not like, I'm not talking about people in our coalition. People in our coalition came to me directly. I'm talking about people not in our coalition just automatically just went on the attack and said, you guys are associated with this. Mm-hmm. Like I had people who are organizing with us. So, okay, sure, what's going on? What happened? What's the story? And I told them the truth. We're green. And we're honest, we're green. We don't know what we're doing. We're still trying to figure everything out. We're still new at organizing. And I had somebody.
Yeah, you kind of blanked out, Shareef. I
Cut
can't
out
hear you.
there. No audio.
Yeah.
Shareef, we can't hear you.
Can you hear us?
Typically his video freezes and we can still hear him.
Yeah. Hang on, let me.
Can you hear us, Shareef? Can you give us a
I can
thumbs
hear you
up?
guys. I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you had cut out for a while, bro.
You cut out. Your mouth was moving, but we couldn't hear you.
Uh-oh, deep state.
Looked like max headroom for a bit.
When we were I met with Misty and Andrew yesterday, and her speculation when she heard about, she was like, it's probably potentially a Fed that just infiltrated.
Are you talking about
I
the
believe that.
Feds.
Oh, I believe
Infiltrated
that.
I think her name is
Our-
Comrade Misty on Twitter.
I love Comrade Misty. I love Misty. She's my girl.
No, her
I'm
podcast is amazing, dude. Her,
Yes,
Oh,
it is.
yeah.
I think it's called
I was on
Bitch
her
or
show.
something like that.
I was on
Facts on the Ground is one, and the other one's Action for Assange.
right. I
Okay.
literally
Well, now she's been doing like an interview series called Bitch. Like that's
Bitch,
what it
good.
says.
Oh,
Right.
really?
Yeah, that's what it says on my
Just
YouTube
three.
channel.
Just 3.
3.
I actually agree 100% that the intelligence community is involved with this. 100%. No doubt in my mind. No doubt. So I don't know if that's what Scott was signaling earlier, but that goes without question, in my opinion. I won't go into more details, but I definitely know the intelligence community is involved for sure. For sure.
Yep.
And that's not
Hey,
conspiracy.
and NSA,
That's what they do.
if you're listening to
That's
this,
what they do. That's what
NSA,
they
if you're
do.
listening to this, one of my friends from college, you're interviewing him right now. See if you can figure out who it is.
Right.
They're listening.
Yeah.
So I guess.
Oh, speaking of breaking news, Shareef, Misty texted me and said we officially got Jesse Jett at the Columbus March.
Yo,
Yes.
let me.
Performed.
I guess I'll
I'm
announce.
jealous.
Well, not announce this, but talk about this here. I'm going to be making music again. I'm going to be posting music on my channel
Please do.
because of him. Because of him, I was listening to his music. I'm like, dude, he's dope. I'm about,
Right.
fuck it. I'm about to, because I'm just now getting back into doing music again. Like I'm a rapper. Like I rap for the most part and do a little bit of singing. But I'm like, dude, I'm definitely because
Chris, I'm so jealous of Chris right now. He has Misty and Jesse. I'm so jealous right now.
We've got and we brainstormed. We've got we'll say it off air, but we've got a few other people that we're gonna reach out to, and we've got a good chunk of action items to try and get done before we're meeting each Sunday evening. Me, Misty, and Andrew. So yeah, I'm excited.
I can't wait. That's amazing. That's amazing.
So I guess the question I would have, so Shareef, your whole thing is like this wasn't even like this guy that was supposed to speak out. His name was like Matt what again? The guy that they said was supposed to speak.
He's actually Matthew Heimbach.
Oh, Matthew
Right.
Heimbach. So he wasn't supposed to he never got in contact with y'all at all.
Somebody just sent a PNG of his photo to which we didn't even have. I haven't found a graphic. You know how we list all our cities? I haven't
Right.
found a graphic that even had Muncie as a city.
No, not at all.
They didn't even exist. There was no Muncie March.
So did
No.
he know about this? Was he involved in coordinating this to do this?
We
or-
have no idea.
I don't even know. I wouldn't even reach out to ask him to even find out.
Okay.
No,
No. So
Because that's why I'm like one. Like
it would just be
one-
counterproductive. It would
Yeah,
just waste
right.
time.
yeah,
Okay.
completely.
Okay. So, and that's what I just find like crazy is that like people are like literally like throwing dirt on y'all name for something you're not like you didn't know about for one. And then two,
Well-
like I said, this is a truly grassroots thing that is going on. And the fact they're just like disparaging it, like, because you see what happens with decentralized activist movements. Like I'm not shitting on the movements themselves, but like, for example, with Black Lives Matter, like you see that happening with a lot of these movements. That's honestly like why like I have a lot of criticisms towards them. Obviously, I'm in favor of the message. Like I'm not shitting on the message on what they're saying, but to me, anything like not necessarily like centralized, but like it needs to be decentralized. It needs to be people, like just regular everyday people coordinating these things, and like it's more effective that way because it's regular people. You feel me?
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel leadership. We had a full disclosure, we had a meeting earlier with my team in regards to moving forward and just talking about security and a whole bunch of different stuff as well. And a lot of people told me that we look at you, Shareef, as kind of like the de facto leader of, March for Medicare for All. I don't like that title. I don't want to even label myself as a leader. I don't mind being like, we discussed this too, about being more or less kind of the spokesperson for the group, because you always want to have someone you kind of will be the liaison for, so to speak, and kind of talk for the group as a whole, because I vehemently disagree with leadership in a coalition and vehemently disagree with like having some type of like hierarchical structure. I think that kills movements. It is counterproductive, and you don't let in new ideas. You don't grow as a movement. You don't, because you're putting handcuffs on the movement, because the movement has to come first. Everything else comes second. The moment you start doing that, you're basically saying that the organization is first and the movement is second. This is why we don't have Medicare for All, because we're not even putting the movement first. We have to put the movement first. Look, case in point, Bernie Sanders was the leader of Medicare for All. Whether people agree with that or not, he was. The moment he removed himself from the from Medicare for All had zero ground game. So I do not want to repeat that. And by having a leader and having someone as like the de facto person, why we're going to get it, is going to kill the movement. I want someone else to be able to come along and have better ideas, better suggestions than myself, than Scott, than Chris, or anybody else on our team who can say, "Oh, here's a strategy. Here's something we can do." But when you have a leadership role, you don't feel the need to listen to someone because you're your underling. We don't want to have underlings. This is just stupid. We're trying to get people healthcare. We're not CEOs of like, Amazon or, of a corporation. We're just volunteers who wants to get healthcare for everybody. So the moment we have an organization, once we put an organizational structure to this, it's game over. We lost. We 100% lost.
Yeah. And that's honestly like kind of like going off of that, what you were saying, like that's honestly kind of the idea I've been having, like just thinking about like, like obviously like activist networks and things like that, but along with that, like mutual aid networks, things that can go around the government. Because one of the benefits I feel that you can get with that is getting like more conservatives on board with it. Like obviously, we want Medicare for all on the government level and things like that, but I feel like there are things outside of healthcare that can be done through like mass mutual aid movements that would get like a libertarian on board who doesn't believe in big government and things like that, and kind of be like the opening door to eventually see like, hey, government's not all bad, and educate them and things like that. But it's like the process and method on which I'm seeing people go about this is very exclusionary and like very like kind of like a shaming tactic, like kind of what Jimmy was doing with force to vote, but not like in a way that's beneficial. You feel me? Like
I've had issues. I've had issues with. I'm not going to listen. I'm not. Let you guys know. I'm not going to list any organizations or anybody's names or anything like that. I don't do that kind of stuff. I don't believe in that kind of nonsense. But I will tell you that I swear on my children's life, I had different organizations tell me, if you're working with this group, if you're working with that group, I'm not going to work with you. I'm not going to march with you. I'm not going to do anything with you. We're going to work together. And I tell people, great, this is not for you.
Then you're not as serious about Medicare for all as you think you are.
Right. You're not serious. You're not serious. And one of the groups now where I'm going to have a meeting with, and we're going to iron some stuff out. But I really have a hard line with that kind of attitude. I just, the only time you ever see me be a dictator in this movement is when someone tells me that if you associate yourself with this party or this group or that group, I'm going to say, well, we can't work together. I'm not going to ask my other members and say, hey, I met with so-and-so and, they're out. I'm just going to tell you, I just told them no. I'm not interested in working with them.
And that's what I guess I was going to ask that next. Like, like why, like, is it, hang on, give me a second to reword. I kind of lost the thought for a second. Hold up. So why is it that you get these organizations that, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to shit on the work that they have done, but like, for example, with like force to vote, like DSA wasn't applying their own fucking handbook to do what needed to be done with forcing the vote. But as soon as somebody else does it, then that's when it's like, you know, they just smear and shit on that person. Like, why couldn't, like, if you don't like this person or you don't like this group, why couldn't you just fucking do it yourself in the first place?
Well, I don't be honest with you, and I'm not saying this. I don't want people to think that I wouldn't shit on DSA or shit on any other group. I don't know anything about them that much to make an argument whether or not they would do that or not. But I will say this: I will speak to different groups that I spoke to. I personally feel that a lot of people do not want Medicare for all. They just want to make money on the marketing and branding of Medicare for all. That's just my instincts. My instincts just tell me not everyone's in good faith in this movement. Activism and starting an organization, stuff like that, can bring some money. And I think that there's a profit motive for some people, and some people really want change and some people don't. And that's going to rub people the wrong way to hear that. And I'm sorry if they're offended, but some of these organizations do not want Medicare for all. They're not serious. They really, 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 really don't. They're really not putting the issues first. They're not. They're really not. Some of this petty infighting on the left doesn't make any sense to me. And the fact that you're willing to this loud, stupid, and petty arguments dictate the movement is weird to me. And we're adults, and that's if you're gonna go there, then you're not serious, and you only lead me to believe you're doing it for the money, not because you're about the issues. Yeah. So
this you guys tweeted out, and I brought it up on our last call, Shareef. But this tweet from June 21st, 8:25 a.m. by @M4M for all states: if you can't stand with someone you don't like for something that will save thousands, you are a deeply unserious person. And I think in a few days, whenever like some of this stuff dies down, I think this should be the pinned tweet on this page for this Twitter.
Yeah, that's
once the Heimbach crap dies down, that should be the pinned tweet.
No, I agreed.
And I've saved it in here because I don't want to keep having to scroll back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that should be the pinned tweet.
No, I agree.
There's no other way to put that in that message.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So I guess
if you seriously cared, you would put any differences aside.
No, for sure.
Yeah, and that's just like you see this a lot with just even issues outside of like single payer and things like that. Like obviously the whole Jimmy Dore TYT fiasco. Like it's always called infighting instead of exposing people's intentions. You feel me? Like right. I don't get how that. Yeah, like I don't like you just have people, and that's kind of like one of the reasons why I get so infuriated with the left, the quote unquote left, is because they're so fucking naive. Most of them are so fucking naive. They think all people are going to come in with good intentions.
Right.
It's literally like at times like the way conservatives describe progressives a lot of the time as like these naive, like in many ways wimps, bitch, pussies, whatever the word is. I'm like, I see it a lot, and I'm like, yo, it's kind of true, because it's like when you get, and I think that's because of the pacification of the left all through the early 20th century and shit like that, where they literally rooted out a lot of the radical instincts of the left. If you ask me, like they basically killed everybody in the 60s, all the lefties in the 60s, or scared them off or put them in prison, and then the only ones that were left was like, well, I don't want to end up like him, so I'm just going to conform to the party. Like there's so many. I think I did a video about this, specifically, and I'm not trying to include you guys in that, but about the DSA, like you saw this with the DSA. That's why it's not surprising when you hear AOC saying like these bullshit, establishment DSA talking points. Like it's not surprising. This is all based off of history when you actually pay attention to what the fuck is going on. And it's like, I don't know, man, like the whole infiltrator thing and shit like that. Like, it's crazy. Like people think you're like a fucking nut job when you say that, where it's like, they're like, we just found out the leaders of a lot of these like right-wing militia groups, like the Proud Boys and shit, are all fucking narcs, basically. Like, why is it so far out of the norm for you to believe that it's not, that it can happen to the left as well? I don't know, man.
It blows my mind that we are naive. And we don't have the moxie that the right has. I would love if we had the same kind of like, let's pull ourselves by the bootstrap and get shit done. We just don't have that.
That's something like if Bernie Sanders had Trump's like Trump was Teflon so much because Trump didn't give a fuck Like that's just what it is. Like it takes that type of mentality and attitude. It takes that type of mental fortitude and toughness. Like that's why, like, Chris, you brought up Fred Hampton. For me, my political inspiration is always, even since I was a kid, has been Malcolm X. Malcolm X didn't give a fuck about what anybody said on him. He would go on MSNBC and say the same shit that he was saying, and in the fucking streets of Harlem, he didn't give a fuck what people had to say about it. And I feel like we don't have that anymore, because like, I'm not trying,
Because the left wants to be so polite, right? They want to spit you these like platitudes of kindness, right? When I say the left, I mean the American left, the liberals. I could still consider myself a liberal. I consider myself a global leftist or a progressive.
As Richard Medicare will say, the boutique left.
So yeah, they just spit the platitudes of kindness, right? They tell us what we want to hear, then they'll go behind the closed doors and govern the same way, right, that Republicans do. And the reason why so many Americans, and why we saw such an influx, you'd think, how could so many Americans, support a Donald Trump, like an openly racist, overtly racist human being, is because he doesn't lie. And neither is that party, really. Like, what you're getting at face value. And that's what it comes down to. And the reason why so many, right-leaning or conservative Americans will vote Republicans, because they feel like, well, the Democrats are just going to lie to us, or they'll like be on that libertarians, or because they don't believe in the big government, but they believe what you say is what's going to happen. And that's not what all happens with Democrats. And they're all going behind the closed doors, and they're all controlled by the same corporations, the same giant insurance companies, the same billionaires. No matter who you vote for, it's the same people. Just one's going to tell you straight to your face, we don't give a shit about your Medicare for all. The other one's going to say, Medicare for all. Or like AOC last night on television, and she's saying we need this single payer system. The system where it gives healthcare coverage to everyone. If only it had a certain name or a ring to it, She refused to say the words Medicare for all.
Yeah, and that's
it's no different than when you go to University of Alabama, or you go to down south, or the university I used to work for, Southeast Missouri State. They refuse to say the words Black Lives Matter. We care about those people that are oppressed, right? We care about you, but we won't say the words Black Lives Matter. AOC is doing the same thing. She won't say the words, we need Medicare for all. So we need this system, that gives healthcare coverage. It's the same concept. She's scared of saying, because now she's taking her grassroots money and she's funding corporate Democrats.
Spooks on top of that. Literal spooks.
Yes. She got taken in the back room by Nancy Pelosi, and she's changed forever.
I think I forgot who said this joke. I forgot who said this joke, but it's like they say when a person gets elected president, they take him to the back room and they show him like a angle of the JFK assassination they never seen before, and they're like, any questions? I feel like that's what happened to AOC. It's the same exact thing. Same
thing. Everyone else in the squad, same thing.
You know what? The funny thing is too, because I also mentioned in another podcast that people vehemently disagree with me. When because I also agree with Jim Dore that Nancy Pelosi and AOC are no different, right? And when people say that, when I say that, people look at me, what? How dare you? I was like, here's the thing, right? If you're dying on the street, right, Nancy Pelosi is going to walk by you and pay you no mind. You know that. AOC is going to say, all right, I'm going to get the towel. I'm going to call the ambulance. I'm going to get you a polo. I'm going to get you this. I'm going to get you that. I'm going to get you that. And because she spit all these nice words to you, keep in mind, you're dying. Right? You're not getting the help you need. She cares. And because she doesn't take corporate money, you think she cares. She don't need to take corporate money. She's a celebrity. She's on Vogue magazine. She has a $58 sweater that you guys buy, and you give her all your money. So why, if I was AOC, I wouldn't need to take corporate money either. I got my own web store. I'm a celebrity. I got all these speaking arrangements that I make. I make tons of money doing that. I don't need to take corporate money now. Because she's a celebrity, and celebrityism in this country has more weight than a politician. Yeah. So if she does something, it's not a big deal. She's a celebrity. Pick another politician that you vehemently dislike, or it's not as big as AOC. The left will pro clutch and say, "Oh my God, how dare this person?" AOC's not fighting for Medicare for all. I live
Not
in
anymore.
Not anymore. I live in her district. People vehemently dislike me when I protest her. Just because I said I'm protesting her, she's not fighting for Medicare for all. We're in a pandemic. I'm not coming for her. I'm just living the facts. We don't have Medicare for all. She's not fighting for it. Where is she? And we're in a pandemic. We still wear masks. People got to get vaccinated. Why is
Shareef,
it?
just wait.
What am I saying? What am I saying that's wrong?
Oh, she's a clout chaser, dog. She's a clout chaser. Yo, Matt, I remember Max Blumenthal. They did this like live stream on the Gray Zone. I covered it on the channel where he basically like kind of exposed her, like low key exposed her. Was like, yo, like, you know, she comes from like she grew up around like those Brooklyn liberal elite types. That's who she like came up around. So it's like it's not surprising when you see this from her. And it's like she like the fact that people can't see that she's a clout chaser is insane to me, because like she stays away from people that challenges her. She only goes onto the corporate news. She like even people that like, you know, like
she's created challenging conservative Republicans, and I won't knock her for that. Like for her calling out misogyny, yes, do it. Call out racism, yes, do it. But also don't run an entire grassroots campaign on Medicare for all and socialist ideas, and then when you get put in and we win with the power of the people and money from the working class Americans, you go up there and you govern like every single other. And when you were called upon to refuse to vote for Nancy Pelosi unless she puts Medicare for all on the floor for a vote so we can see where everyone stands publicly on the record, you refuse to do that. You go and say, oh, we'll get it eventually. We'll just wait, guys.
You know what's so funny too? The American people wasn't been asking for Medicare for all the past. They was asking for a vote. A vote, which could have got shot down, which we all knew was going to get shot down.
Yes, we knew it was going to be vetoed.
I'm part of the forced. You know what? I'm part of the forced to vote camp. I'm like, you don't vote for Nancy Pelosi on fucking principle. That's the part of forced to vote, the forced to vote crowd I was in. You don't vote for her on fucking principle. That's kind of like what Kyle Kalinske talks about all the time, is that you guys were supposed to be the Tea Party of the Democratic Party. Like it should be like a foregone conclusion that you're not going to vote for Nancy Pelosi on fucking principle, because they didn't vote for Scott or whatever Boehner or whatever his name was, the Speaker of the House at the time, on principle, because he didn't agree with what they wanted to see for the country. Now, obviously, you know, what they wanted for the country was odious. I don't agree with any of what they wanted for the country, but I do agree with what, you know, AOC claimed, you know, back in the day she wanted for the country. And the fact that like you won't take a winning strategy to do that is insane to me. Like,
and you know, about like, was it a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, when Chuck Schumer made the statement saying we need to force the vote on the voting rights to see where we need to force this vote because Joe Manchin was blocking, right? And we need to see where everyone stands on voting rights. Literally take the words Medicare for all out and just put in voting rights. We need to force this vote.
Apply the same metrics to voting rights, to Medicare for all, and they will say, no, it's different. It's different. Not the same. What are you talking about?
Because we have these corporate insurance billionaire trillion-dollar companies that are funding us. That's why it's different.
Absolutely outrageous.
It's quicker money in their pocket than, you know, voting rights, because they know voting rights will affect them from losing majority in 2022. That's why.
I don't even think
they're using us. They're using all working class Americans. They're using the Black and brown and indigenous and people of color vote, you know, as a weaponizing it to be like, if you don't support this, we're gonna lose your right to vote, and it's gonna marginalize these votes that got us in here in the first place. We need to fight for it, just so you can stay in power, because you got to vote blue no matter who. Then we're gonna still do jack shit and do nothing. We're gonna stay the same. Nothing will fundamentally change.
Call me a cynic. I'm more cynical than that. I think they're pushing this voting rights thing because like they know voting is bullshit anyway. They don't like, look, we're going to get handpicked by the billionaires any fucking way. So like here, we'll give you guys the platitudes of being able to vote and things like that. Like that's not me saying Republicans like stripping away, you know, people's right to vote and everything is wrong. But what I'm saying is like, I think like in America, it's always been the elite class that selects the person that becomes president. Like it's been that since the foundation of the country.
For sure.
I don't feel it's just America. I feel that since the dawn of civilization, there's always been one class that always ruled, and that's always the class with money.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Working class.
Few minor exceptions.
The working class never gets anything until there's a violent revolution. And again, not to go, I don't put any negative energy in the air, but again, we always have to push and fight for crumbs.
Shareef, we're about in a week, and I think it's 5 days, we're about to celebrate the founding of this country, which was founded on a fucking violent revolution. I'm getting tired of people saying that shit, man. That's what we were founded on. We were founded on a bloody revolution. So it's the fact that now when the working class people, have been disenfranchised, for so many years in this country, now that, they're talking about staging a violent revolution, now all of a sudden it's a bad thing because it doesn't go.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Man. So I guess we've been kind of going for a while. Unless you guys had anything else you wanted to throw in there, about the march or anything like that.
We can talk about exactly. We have the speakers for the DC march. I don't know if Chris, you want to talk about the speakers for all the speakers you had in mind, unless we already covered that already for the.
Yeah, we covered that. I covered that in the beginning.
Yeah. So
who are all the speakers for the DC march? Because I've seen.
So Scott is one of them. Scott is definitely one of them. He's not only going to be a speaker, but he's also going to do a visual, which I'm really excited about.
Okay.
So we're going to give him a little bit more time because we want him to have more time for the visual as well as speaking arrangement we want him to have, because that's really important. Because I want to remind people that I want people to put a face to the name to the people who are dying. And we need to keep applying pressure to this. So we have Scott, we have Savage Joy, Marion Williamson is also going to be the keynote speaker. And now we have Reverend Annie Chambers, Black Panther member, and as well as Poor People's Campaign member, which is really amazing. She's going to be a speaker. We have Lee Camp, Dr. Joe Jarvis.
Okay.
Hang on a second. There's a few others actually. I just did out. And also we was going over scheduling literally the other day, because we was all right, we was writing down the whole list of okay, who's our speakers, how much time they're gonna get, the bands we're gonna have, the DJ we're gonna have a saxophone player.
Okay.
You trying to find your lineup, Shareef?
Hello? I went silent there for a second. You guys can hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's something wrong. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. I was trying to look. Hello? Am I muted?
No, you're good, bro. You're good. We hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we was literally going over everything in regards to all the speakers that we're gonna have. We have now we have about 15 speakers. I'm literally trying to look for the rest of the list, but it's pretty big now, which is pretty exciting.
That sounds good, man.
And and also I was gonna say, we have I think the last time I was here, I think we had 5 marches. We have Seattle now, we have LA, we have Ohio, we have Albuquerque, we have a march in Kentucky, we have Detroit, Chicago.
You got a handful in Florida.
And we have 2 in Florida, Boston.
Does Miami not have one yet?
No, it's Tampa.
Tampa and Orlando, I know, have it.
Tampa, Orlando, yes. Tampa, Orlando, and Boston.
Miami or Jacksonville don't.
Yeah. And we have Atlanta.
Okay.
And then the speakers we have, I'm trying to remember. Seattle, we have Shama Sawant, which is amazing. Let's keep
Wow.
going. Okay. We have Maybe a Girl in LA. We have Graham Elwood's going to Hawaii. He's going to be at the Hawaii March. We have Ron Bacone at the LA March. We have I'm trying to remember all the speakers because so many.
Marion Williamson, is it?
Marion Williamson is DC. Yeah, she's going to be DC. We mentioned Rome is going to be the MC Bendu for the Detroit March.
Oh,
Shareef, I mentioned one of the times we spoke, Ryan Knight was moving across. I found out he's moving to the East Coast. I don't know where in the East Coast, but we need to get him. We need to get him to be a keynote speaker somewhere on the East Coast. Where I don't know what city. I asked him. I literally asked. He followed me back on Instagram, And then I commented on his latest photo asking what city or state are you moving to, and all he did was just like my comment. I get it. He's like, for safety reasons probably, but
Right.
and I completely agree. But privately, we want to get him somewhere because he could talk and he would love to talk.
Right. Also, too, Heartlands Media, they're gonna be MC speaking in Chicago, which is really cool.
Where? Okay.
Yeah. So we're getting some podcasters, we get some guest speakers, we're still onboarding new.
Do we know where the have you guys heard of the Fred Hampton leftists?
Yes.
Do we know where they're based out of, and would they want to MC?
I reached out to them. Home is part of them, but also Sabrina Sabby Sab.
Yes.
She's MC speaker for Boston, which I'm super happy about. I'm
awesome.
So yeah, this Bendu, there's so many things planned. Like Detroit March now, gonna have a barbecue. We're doing it up, dude. This is really exciting. We're getting so many organizations, so many different mutual aids, so many community centers, different places across the country are coming out for this, and it makes me smile to see that people are saying that, you know what, we got to do something. And people are doing it, and it's amazing.
Yeah, man, it is, dog. Like I've been like when I saw the cities popping up, all the different cities, I'm like, oh shit, damn. All right.
New York now. New York. Oh, we have Awkward. Awkward. He's a rapper and he's an activist. He's gonna be.
I've heard of him before. Yeah.
He's gonna be at the New York March.
You know who you should try to reach out to? So I've heard he's fairly like left. I don't know if he's like progressive or not, or like, but I think you probably heard of him, Vic Mensa. He's a rapper. Fucking Roger Waters was recently talking about him. He was like tweeting hardcore about the Palestine situation and everything. And like I went through his Twitter and I saw he was tweeting out like a lot of like about a lot of lefty shit. Like I think he tweeted out about the minimum wage and healthcare as well too. So I would definitely like, he's kind of famous, but I feel like he would be somebody you should probably reach out to.
No, yeah, for sure.
I was just thinking Tony Takes too. He's the one that wrote the song for Bernie. Yeah. He might be a good one too that we should reach out to.
No, I would love that. Scott, if you have any more suggestions, please do. Oh, so I have the list here. So we also have Joe Nice. We have Dr. Margaret Flowers. We have Rusty Williams. And then we have Dr. Valerie McCrae. So we have a list. It's growing too. And it's like, again, it's so powerful that we're gonna have so many people who are coming out to even perform too, which is really nice. People just go, oh, you need to speak, you need a singer, you need a band, you need this, you need that. I'm still talking to people about them bringing their equipment and how we're gonna get power in certain areas and stuff like that. I'm just really excited about that for sure.
Yeah, and this will be my first like protest I've ever been to. I've never been to a protest. This is my first one. So.
I've gone to several. I've gone to several. I've never thought to organize one ever. And it's interesting too because most of the time I'm just going with my instincts. I'm shooting from the hip in regards to what would be a good idea, what would be a bad idea, and I just find that just people just coming out and being supportive is pretty much the only good idea. Just the fact that we can just get people to come out and speak their truth and help build. Because another thing too, one of the things I want to do with all these marches is not just have a march and that's it. I want to have a strategy moving on forward, like having an action plan for August, having an action plan for September, having an action plan for October, November, December, for the rest of the year until the next March for Medicare for All, that we have these little events following up into the big march. And I think that's how we continue the movement. Because a lot of times you hear a march, okay, then they die down. Then everyone takes a break. And then you have another
That's
march.
where I feel like what happened with Force to Vote. There was no follow through. All right, what happens when like they still vote Nancy in? Like what? And there was no follow through. There was no follow up. We were part of Force to Vote. Not this is what Force to Vote's doing now. So I do like that plan. I hate to interrupt you guys. I do have to bolt. I gotta go run somewhere. But okay. I know you guys hopefully still keep going and keep spreading the message. But thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Chris, for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You can follow the local, if you're Columbus or Ohio based at all, you can follow local updates for us at Unified People's Coalition on Instagram. or at People Unified on Twitter, and then at M4All on Twitter for the national updates. Thank you guys.
All right, thanks, man.
Nice meeting you, bro.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Solidarity.
Solidarity.
Yeah.
Scott, you was making a point, Scott.
Yeah, I was just saying I got to actually cut out myself soon too.
Okay.
But yeah, where we were on right before we were talking about. I forgot what we were talking about.
I think we were talking about you were going through like the list. Shareef.
Right, I was going over the list and the fact that we're onboarding a lot of partnerships and a lot of reaching out to different other local groups and getting them involved and helping spread the message. I mean, that's where we are right now too. We talk about having 30 some odd marches, but the coalition for so many different organizations to jump on board and get involved is pretty powerful. It's saying a lot. And to echo back to what we were talking about earlier, the establishment doesn't want that. They don't want us to build. They don't want us to build together. The fact that we're doing is already dangerous. I mean, what we're doing right now is dangerous. If you really think about it. I've said this on many podcasts too. That anytime that we're not going back to brunch, we're not watching Netflix, we're sitting down and talking about strategizing how to make our lives better, we're a problem. Hard stuff. I don't care if it's a phone call, a Zoom meeting on a street corner. You're not a cog in a machine anymore. You went outside of the machine, and so you're already a threat. You're already a problem because you decided to stop watching Netflix to have this conversation.
I was driving somewhere with Anna the other day, and we're in the car, and it's like, I said to her, for once, I'd like to be thinking about something other than healthcare. Maybe what barbecue sauce would be best on the chicken tonight would be a good idea. Something like that. But we are who we are, right?
Right.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
All right, brothers. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm gonna jet.
thanks for coming on, Scott. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
brother.
Scott.
Much love. Later.
All right.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, Shareef, I'm gonna have to wind down soon too, man. But
No problem.
But yeah, so if there was there anything else that you wanted to talk about with the march before we signed off?
I don't know. Oh, I didn't mention Portland as well. Portland has a march. I just thought about that too. They're also working on their who is going to be guest speakers there and working on music as well. A lot of the cool thing about this, and I think a lot of that what scares people is that there's so much unknown. Like, for example, like the New Mexico march, they have their own action. They're doing stuff. What's going on in Phoenix is another one. They're doing their own stuff. And so they're checking back with us when they have things solidified. And so the cool thing about these marches is that, again, we talk about there's no hierarchical structure. A lot of this stuff, even though, I'm the person who started this, quote unquote, right? There's no like, I need to check in with Shareef and see if this is okay. People can do whatever march they want. You know what I mean? And the beautiful thing about this is that having a solidarity event, it literally that's what it means. That you're under the banner for March for Medicare for All because you believe that healthcare is a human right. You want make sure every American has it, and you're gonna push for that. And so, I'm learning as every day, new march pops up, and then who's gonna be a speaker, what event's gonna go on there, and what are they planning on doing. So it's as chaotic that may sound, is even for a lot of us who part of the so-called national team, we don't know because this has become bigger than us, and I'm happy about that. I don't want to be the leader of a movement. I want people to be more vocal, to be more loud, and to snowball into something that I can't control. I love that because that means that people are doing something better than I can even conceive it can be. You know what I mean? To put handcuffs on this movement would be stupid. I want it to be something that I can't control, and that people out there, as long as they're, obviously being peaceful, obviously not doing anything stupid, but I want people to grow this larger than I can even thought it can be possible, because I want people to get Medicare for all. That's the goal. So if you can do something better than I can do, please, by all means, you can retire me so I can spend more time with my kids. I'll be happy with that. 100%. I have no ego about this movement. I do not care. But again, that's if that person is genuine. if that person is serious, they're going to actually challenge power. You know, if you're going to challenge power, I would gladly stay home and go on vacation and not do anything. The problem is we don't have too many people
like that.
that's serious about getting these issues.
Exactly.
And that's what we're here.
Yeah, man. Like that's honestly, that's part of the that's part of what I've been definitely feeling is that, like, you know, especially with all the, you know, quote, like I said, quote unquote, infighting, is that like you have a lot of people that are just like not serious about it for real, just not. And it's like, you know, I'm not like, I name names, especially when it comes to the politics world or the podcast world. People like I could list them: Sam Cedar, Majority Report, TYT, all of, you know, those type, you know, that type, David Pakman, those types of motherfuckers. Like they don't actually want this shit. They just like to talk about it and feel good about themselves. And that's what, that to me is the problem with this shit. And even like I recently, because I like to, I think about shit through the mentality of how I think a lot, because I feel like I think like a lot of everyday Americans. And it's like when you get bogged down, you know, when you bog people down with the political jargon and shit like that, they're not going to like hear that shit. Like when you know, you got to make it as simple as you fucking possibly can for people. And I think that's what you guys are doing. And that's what I really like about it. When I told my homie about it, like he's not going, but when I explained it to him and what it was, like he started doing research on Medicare for All for himself. That's how you have to like do it. You have to make it as simple as possible and digest it for people. Like, because one of the stories that I found interesting was the union vote in Alabama for Amazon. It's a majority black plant. It's a majority of black people voted, you know, work at that plant. But like I think there was a poll they did on why they got turned off by it. One of the main things was the warehouse itself retaliating against them, but also it was the fact that they were throwing in like these like, you know, racial jargon and shit like that, like the Black Lives Matter jargon and everything. They're like, wait, hold up, we didn't sign, and this is a majority black plant. They said we didn't sign up for all that. We just want a living wage. We want better circumstances and, you know, in the plant and shit like that. And I'm not saying that those, you know, issues don't matter, but you have to simplify it and make it digestible for people. You feel me? And not in the way Obama was talking about. Obama just doesn't want you to talk about it, period. Whatever, you know, you're, whether it's LGBTQ rights, whether it's, you know, Black Lives Matter, whatever it is, you know, those type of people don't want you to talk about it. I'm saying it from the perspective of, you know, somebody that, you know, that used to be, you know, recently like that, you know, apolitical, not know a lot about politics. You have to simplify it for people. That's why I got into politics through Jimmy. So
no, absolutely. I think you know, not to beat the dead horse, but I think we all got into politics on the left because we saw a problem. You know, I got kind of a few when I started dedicating watching more YouTube videos as far as political side. It was because of Kyle Kalinske and because of Jimmy Dore, Graham Elwood, your Lee Cams, your Ron Pacones. I got into them. When I told Graham, I was on Graham's show, I was like, I really saw these marks because, you know, these guys on the left who we feel is real, you know, Graham is one of them, emboldened me to say, okay, I can go out there and do it. You know, I just think that the more we, as the American people, believe that, you know, this is possible and we be more vocal and we get out there and do it and not wait for politicians. Do not wait for them. I think we can get it. I think we can get any policy passed in this country as long as we stop waiting for politicians. Yeah. And the big key word for this meeting today is we need to stop using the word wait. We can't use that to each other. We can't allow other people to tell us to wait. We have to go out there and just take it. And that's how power works. You don't ask for it. You just take it.
Take it. Yeah, exactly.
You take it. It's yours. You earned it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess with that being said, man, I guess we can just go ahead and wrap it up, bro. That was a great segment, man. Like it really felt like, because I'm trying to transition Talks Talk into being like the podcast form of American Autopsy. So I think I'm about to start an anchor for it so I can start posting it on like Spotify and everything so people can listen to it and everything. But really enjoyed the conversations we had, man. A lot of the shit we talked about was amazing. And again, hearing Scott's story, because I remember you were telling me about, you told me Scott was coming on. I didn't know he was, you know, that the same person from the Forced to Vote meeting. I'm like, oh shit. When we started telling the story, I was like, oh, I remember you now. Okay. So definitely enjoyed the conversations we had, man. Like I said, this is going to be my first protest I've ever been to. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. You know, I'm going to be out there covering it, you know, with my little cell phone and everything. I'm getting a selfie stick, recording it and everything, but, and hopefully doing interviews like personally, I know we're not supposed to be there to be networking, but I hope I get to meet Max Blumenthal. I'm a whole Max Blumenthal fan, bro. I'm not even going to fraud, bro.
We should definitely be networking there for sure. Part of the coalition building and part of like doing the mutual aid and outreaching with the community is so that we come together and so that when there's an issue with our movement or with anything, we got people we can contact.
Okay.
And that's what we need to do. We need to get these allies anywhere we can and, you know, build when it's necessary. So you're smart by getting the connections for sure.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I hope, I love Max Blumenthal's work, mate. And he usually, like, I check his Twitter sometimes. Like, he usually pops out to like events at DC and everything. Like, he was at the Capitol riot when the shit went down, and I think he went to the Forced to Vote rally, I believe, as well too. So definitely like looking for Lee Camp as well. Like I've been watching more Lee Camp recently. You actually put me on to watching Lee Camp more because I only used to watch him on him and Graham's podcast and everything, but been checking him out more. But yeah, man, like I said, again, I appreciate you for coming on as always, man. I appreciate you dealing with my inability to organize shit properly. I definitely, but for bearing with me through that, man. And again, man, Forced to Vote, man. That's what it is. Medicare for all now. No wait, no later. Now, motherfucker, now. Samuel L. Jackson will probably say, now, motherfucker, now. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it out there, guys. You've been tuned in to Tox Talk. This has been another March for Medicare for All episode. Hop in the comments, show love down there. Definitely go. I'm gonna drop links for all of the stuff y'all talked about on here, all the links for March for Medicare for All, the Twitter website, all that. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. This has been Tox Talk. Peace.